Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a special Destiny 2 preview discussion podcast. I'm your host, Richard Billy Jr., and today I'm joined by Mr. Jakejames Lugo. How's it going, Mr. Lugo?
I'm doing good, Rich. I played a lot of Destiny 2, straight up. I just went in there, I played about almost 20 hours of Destiny 2 with Bungie, which was pretty cool.
Oh, yes. I saw the video. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that have seen the gameplay video. If not, there is a link in that video, actually, in this particular chat also. But yeah, I did see that you had an opportunity to play Destiny 2 early. Definitely want to thank Activision and Bungie for this awesome opportunity.
Definitely.
But, you know, I'm going to have a couple of questions. But right off the bat, there's one question in particular that I have to ask. First and foremost, the question I think everybody has is, based on what you have played so far, what would you say feels a little bit different about this game compared to Destiny 1? And let me just say real quick, I know that you can't really go into any spoiler territory. We don't want to do that. We don't want to spoil anything, but just based on what you can say, what feels different about the experience thus far?
Well, there's a lot of different things. Like overall, the game itself, as far as like how you control, how you move around, shooting guns and stuff, that still feels like Destiny. It's still very familiar, and it should be, because obviously this is a sequel and a lot of people love the way that Destiny plays. That's just the way it is. So you're not going to get a lot that's different there in that department. However, a lot of the other stuff that's very different that makes this better than the original Destiny is all the quality of life stuff that's been changed or that's been added and improved upon since the first game. What do I mean by this? Necessarily, I'm talking about a lot of the stuff that a lot of people complain about when you were traveling around the planets in Destiny 1. Getting around from place to place could be a little bit taxing, a little bit annoying, especially when you weren't really kind of like sure where exactly you were going. We didn't really have a good map system. We didn't really get around the entire environment, even though like most of the places in Destiny 1 were pretty big, and it was a little hard to navigate. Sometimes you had to memorize certain key spots in order to go from place to place, or you have to look at a third-party map on like another website. You don't have to do that anymore with Destiny 2. You actually have the destination map, which is kind of like the director, where you just hit on the PlayStation 4, you hit the actual touchpad, and it brings up this map that is not only easy to really read and easy to understand, but also marks off key locations for you that you're going to want to go to or that you're going to want to know about, including public events, which was a big thing in Destiny 1, the locations of public events, as well as the timing and the frequency of public events, which is a huge, huge change for a lot of people. Same thing also goes for primary missions, like campaign and story missions, and also the side missions, which are kind of like the patrols this time around from the first Destiny, but they're called adventures. They're like side stories and side missions that you can get into. But it's things like that that make Destiny 2 feel a lot more different than the first game, even though you're still controlling and you still are shooting. You're doing a lot of what you did in the first Destiny, but it's much more better this time around.
I got you. Sounds good. So just to give a little bit more of a background on the footage that you took, could you just describe to viewers, maybe there are some that saw the footage and then there are some that haven't seen it quite yet, what exactly does the footage cover in terms of the EDX, or EDZ rather?
EDZ, yeah. EDZ stands for European Dead Zone. Now, unfortunately, because of YouTube, we couldn't really put European Dead Zone, the actual name, because, again, the YouTube copyright system. But EDZ, for sure, it's basically the Earth area of Destiny 2. Very similar to the Cosmodrome in the first game. That's what the EDZ is. It's a place in Europe, or at least it takes place, or, based in Europe. They're not really sure. Some people are saying Russia, kind of like the first game, the Cosmodrome, but it's not really clear, or at least it wasn't really clear to me. I wasn't really looking for stuff like that at the time when I was playing it. But what you basically were looking at in my video preview that we have up on the channel now, so after you guys listen to this stream, this live stream, definitely check it out if you haven't already, or again, pull it up on another tab. But it's basically a bunch of gameplay that I got direct capture gameplay straight of the public events on the EDZ. So you're seeing firsthand exactly how you would go about going to the different public events on the EDZ. You actually see the map. You actually see some of the guns that I use, the enemies, which Some of them, again, they're the same races that you got from the previous game, but a lot of them are improved upon. They got extra stuff that is pretty awesome, pretty interesting, especially in the way that they move and the way that they attack you and the way that they group up and use different tactics and strategies against you when you're in a firefight. But more importantly, there's the amount of enemies that are on screen at the same time. There's a lot of bad guys that end up like appearing in one spot, especially during public events. I think in total, for the gameplay preview that I posted up on the channel, we have, I think I did about 4 public events, I want to say, or 3 public events within that video, and they're all different. They all have like different things about them in different locations, as well as also the types of enemies that appear on there. You got some sections that have stuff involving the Fallen, which are the standard main bad guys from the first game, but then you also got some enemies that include the Cabal, which are now the big baddies of Destiny 2, which is pretty cool. But overall, the game could get pretty hectic in firefights. It gets pretty insane with some of the things that happen. There was one point, I remember, you don't see this in a video, I don't think, but I remember playing the game, and while I was trying to do a public event, or at least I was trying to do some sort of adventure or some other task, a public event triggered, and there was a high-value target. So you had like all these different things happening at the same time, and all these enemies appearing, just swarming my position. It gets pretty crazy like that overall. But that's basically the gist of what you guys would find in the gameplay preview if you haven't seen it already. Again, I highly recommend that you guys check it out.
Yeah, I would also agree. I thought the video was fantastic. The action reminded me a lot of the first Destiny, but you know, it is of a better quality, I think. I know that the team had said that they wanted to make this game have more of a cinematic feel in certain areas. Obviously, that has to do with the story stuff, which we cannot talk about quite yet. But everything I saw so far in the gameplay preview looked awesome.
One thing I want to mention there, Rich, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I want to mention that I actually can comment on is about the music. Now, the music, I will say, definitely contributes to the factor of it being much more cinematic, much more epic in some form or fashion. There's a lot of good musical cues throughout the entirety of the game, not just during the story, but also mainly during the time when you're exploring the environment. When I'm walking around the EDZ, there's different musical cues and different sound cues that really help for making the experience really awesome.
Yes, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, the environments also play a role in that as well, correct?
Definitely. I mean, the places that you see in my gameplay preview, I mean, you see, you know, the city section of the EDZ, and then you see kind of like a more kind of nature/forest or open area section in one of the public events that I go to that involves the Cabal.
Interesting. Interesting. It sounds good. So, what can you tell us about the NPC character that you used?
Well, it's not an NPC character, it's not someone I use, but like what I ran into. That's Devrim K. Now, that's a guy that you run into during the course of the story that he actually has kind of like some of the other NPCs that you have in the different locations of the first Destiny, that you could buy different guns, you could buy different types of equipment and other stuff that you might find useful, which can't really go into a lot of those specific details now, but like those things are going to matter. There's also, you're going to get missions, you're going to get different side quests that you're going to want to pay attention to.
I got you. Cool. I'm trying to think if there's any other specific questions I have based on what we can actually talk about.
Well, while you're thinking of that, I guess I could tell everybody about the lost sectors. I mean, because that's another thing that's a little bit different about Destiny 2 now this time around, especially for like end game content. For like, you know, post-game, like post-campaign content. The lost sectors that everybody, again, you've probably been seeing a lot of videos all over the place about them. They're basically hidden areas that you can discover while you're exploring. And when you find them, like you can look for little markings on like walls and like buildings that kind of give you hints of like where a lost sector might be. They don't appear on your map. They don't appear on the director. So you can't really like, kind of like go to them specifically, but you have to discover them. And when you do, you not only find a high-value target, which is just like a mini-boss or a much more stronger enemy, very similar to what you would find in some of the other story missions in the first Destiny, but as well as also like a grouping of enemies that will swarm you. Once you discover them and you fight them and you kill them, you're able to find good loot. You'll find different treasure chests that you can do again and again and again. It's not like a one-and-done type of deal. You can actually do these over and over again and go back to them and find different loot, which is pretty awesome. It's very similar, again, to some of the other side content that you find in the first Destiny, but much more better handled and much more better designed, in my opinion.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So what about the high value targets?
Again, like I mentioned before, the high value targets are basically like mini bosses. They're kind of like mini bosses that appear randomly in different areas. They're not necessarily tied to one specific place. They'll sometimes appear in one area or sometimes appear in another, and they're basically mini bosses that they have a lot of health. They're pretty strong. They probably have powerful weapons, or they have legions with them that just like walk around with them. The high value targets vary. They're not specifically one type of enemy. Like they could be a Cabal sometimes. It could be a Vex. It could be a Fallen. It could be whatever that's out there. But when you kill them, you get really good loot that appears afterwards, which is what you want to do while you're exploring and doing other stuff. Sometimes you'll see a high value target that you could kill along the way. You're going to want to kill those guys and get some of the loot that they could drop.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Man, there's a there's definitely a lot to cover. Like I said, can't really talk about too much. There's one question I did have in particular. So how much time would you say that you was able to spend with Destiny 2 when you went to Seattle?
With everybody that was there, I was playing with other members of the media that were flown out to the event along with me. We played close to about 20 hours. I want to say around that time frame. And it's kind of we tried to figure it out when we were there because we played for like almost 2 or 3 days straight, just straight up, just Destiny 2. And we played a lot. So there was a lot of things that we got to see that we'll probably be able to talk about as we get closer to release. But on average, I want to say close to about 20 hours. Is my total game time thus far with Destiny 2.
Awesome. I did see that we do have a question in the chat from Bury Me Hollow. He wanted me to ask, was there a lot of variety in visual style to the loot that dropped or just placeholders?
Well, I can't comment anything on the loot as of yet. What I will say, though, is that you're definitely going to want to pay attention to a lot of stuff that happens, or at least stuff that you come across while you're doing all the different activities. It definitely comes into play for one reason or another.
Okay. Yeah, totally understand that. So what other things should we necessarily cover that that you can talk about that maybe we didn't talk about quite yet?
Well, one thing I can mention also is the flashpoints. Now, the flashpoints are kind of like random, crazy events that change up a lot of what you see in the environment, as well as also like the types of enemies that appear all around. One of the flashpoints that I got involved with, and also a friend of mine, Paris from Gamertag Radio, he also got involved the Cabal in one of the different areas that we were exploring in the EDZ. And it'll just be a bunch of Cabal that just show up all over the place, just randomly, and there's like a bunch of them, and it's related to some sort of event. Now, flashpoints, from my understanding, they change every once in a while. Like it'll be in one planet or one area or one particular section, and then all of a sudden, another time, it'll be a completely different thing with all different types of criteria or different types of like scenarios that'll pop up. They're very similar to public events, but like they're not necessarily the exact same thing. There's something that's a little bit different about them each time.
I got you. Interesting. So, definitely from what you played so far, definitely sounds like you said in the video. Pretty much, this definitely feels like it is a true sequel to Destiny 2, not Destiny 1.5.
Yeah, it's not Destiny 1.5, and I understand the logic between people that are saying that, and it's been around for a while. And again, first glance, you look at it, it looks very identical, and it probably looks like it plays identical, but it's not, because there's a lot of other meta and a lot more subtle things that are at work that make the experience a lot more different than the first vanilla Destiny. Destiny, as far as a franchise, has come a long way since we first came out a couple years ago. There's a lot of different things that have changed up. I mean, this time around, we have fast travel, which really changes up the flow of the game. Fast travel, again, from the map, where you can actually go to specific landing spots and actually change, different areas, on the map that you want to go to, rather than just going to orbit. So if there's a whole public event that's going on the opposite side of the map, you don't have to exit the planet, waste all that time and then go back in and hopefully make the public event. No, you can just fast travel to that area that's closest to it and then just immediately just sparrow or run over to where the public event is going on. like that really changes up the flow of the game, and it's going to change up a lot of stuff, especially the frequency of different types of like loot that you're going to want to go for, if not the different types of activities that you do on a daily basis. Though it's those types of stuff that make Destiny 2 a lot more unique than what Destiny 1 was.
That sounds good. That sounds good. Yeah, because I know that is the main thing a lot of people have. They want to make sure that it does feel like a different experience. I mean, I already got that feel from when we saw that initial story campaign trailer, and the fact that it was a little bit more cinematic. So, yeah, it's great to hear all of these new changes. Definitely looking forward to hearing more about the game. Is there anything else that you want to say that maybe you didn't cover about Destiny 2 that you are allowed to talk about at this particular time?
I'm trying to think of like what I didn't cover just yet. Again, I talked a little bit about the enemies. They do get some subtle upgrades as far as like extra additions to them. Like perfect example, the Fallen, like the certain Fallen enemies that usually walk around with like the sniper rifles that change from distance. Those guys get this ability to like crawl on the ground and they rush up to you like really fast. And it's like it looks creepy at first and it catches you off guard because all of a sudden they'll just immediately just like crawl all the way up to you looking really fast and then just start immediately attacking you. And it totally kind of just messes with you at first, but then once you get into the flow of things, like you can deal with it. All the enemies that are included from the first Destiny that make it into here are, again, they get some sort of like change to them that makes them a little bit different. So you gotta really pay attention, especially when there's a lot of them on the map. So that really comes into play. One other thing I can say, and I think I mentioned it earlier to you, when certain things are going on with the public events, sometimes more enemies will still pop up. So like certain like situations or scenarios could end up clashing with each other. You could be in a public event and then all of a sudden get involved with a flashpoint. And there'll be like double, if not triple the amount of enemies all over the place. And things get crazy. You'll be fighting the Cabal at one point and all of a sudden the Fallen just appear just trying to mess with you. Like there's cool moments like that. Again, I know I touched on that a little bit more, but like to really kind of bring it home, those are the types of moments that really make Destiny 2 feel like a much better game and a much more big improvement than what we've had the last few years with Destiny 1.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, sounds like it's turning out to be a great game. Definitely looking forward to getting my hands on it September 6th, which is I think in about 2 weeks from now. But yeah, I did once again want to extend the thanks to Activision Bungie for giving you an opportunity to check it out. And I'm pretty sure you'll have more coverage on Destiny 2 closer to launch that people can look forward to.
Definitely. Again, you can definitely expect us to have a review of the game at some point, you know, as we get closer to release. We're going to have more stuff about Destiny 2 going forward, you know, at least as we get closer to the September 6th release date. That's going to be on consoles. I know that the PC version comes out later. I believe it's October 20-something, 25th, I think it is, for the PC version of Destiny 2. But there's going to be a lot more Destiny 2 content, and we're going to talk a little bit more about Destiny 2 going forward with the co-op and everything else. So there's a lot more to unpack with this game than what I'm revealing now and what you guys have seen. So you guys are going to be pleased, especially if you've been into Destiny 1. You guys are going to like what I have to say.
Absolutely. Sounds awesome. So yes, stay tuned for more coverage of Destiny 2 leading up to launch. And just as Mr. Lugo said, yes, we'll definitely talk more about it. The co-op will return this weekend, Sunday, at around 1:30, 2 p.m. Definitely come right back here, and, you know, we'll be talking about all the stuff that went down, including Gamescom, including Xbox One X, everything. So make sure you come back for that on Sunday. And we thank you all. That's just, once again, just a little bit of details on Destiny 2. We cannot talk about everything, but there will be more said about Destiny 2 as we get closer to launch, and definitely afterward also. So thank you all for checking out the show. Do you have any final shout-outs you would like to give, Mr. Lugo?
Yeah, again, we thank Activision and Bungie for having me over there. Thanks again also to Bungie for giving me the studio tour, because I know I was able to talk about it on social media where I actually got to go visit Bungie Studios and actually their HQ and check it out. And I saw a lot of cool stuff there, some of which I was able to show you guys. Not everything, because they're still working on important stuff over there, so it was a big deal. But it was very cool to at least see that, be out there in Washington State. That was pretty awesome. But also shout out to everybody that checked out the video, checked out the gameplay preview. Again, please share it around if you guys can. Let everybody know that we have a preview up on the channel and on the website. Leave us comments, leave us feedback if you guys could. Hit us up on Twitter as well. Keep checking out all the reviews. We got some new reviews already on the website, we have a review for Yakuza, was it Yakuza Kiwami that I reviewed not too long ago. I got another review coming after the weekend for another game that, especially if you like Legend of Zelda games, you guys are going to like what I have to bring to you. But besides that, we also got some other big content that's coming very, very soon. I just did an unboxing of the Final Fantasy trading card game. Was it Cards, the starter decks? We got more of that coming very soon, as well as also some other games that, again, we're looking into actually reviewing for the site. So there's going to be a lot of big stuff happening over the next couple of weeks. I can't wait to dive into all of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So stay tuned for more coverage on Destiny 2 very soon. Thanks again to Activision and Bungie. And we will talk to you all this weekend. Take care. Have a good night.
Later, everybody.